Hey, agents. So today we were talking on our Facebook Live about fall maintenance tips. And this is kind of a common thing that agents do this time of year. There's mailings available. There's templates, Keeping Current Matters probably has a blog article about it, or like I said, a real estate or something. But we try to, we always try to do something with a little bit of a twist, but we also obviously on our live get our faces in front of people while we're talking about this. And one of the things I think we wanted to stress to agents is make sure that you're getting this information to buyers so they understand what they're supposed to do with their house that they just bought. So that when you go to sell it, you're not looking at a whole lot of issues that could have been prevented with some yearly maintenance.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly it. We've in the past done things where it's, seal windows and do this, but we really focus today on things that, heck, even if they don't do on an annual basis or every 6 months or whatever, at least they have to understand that it's not just about, spending a couple minutes and getting some efficiency for their gas bill or for their electric bill or whatever. This is about keeping the valuation of your house, keeping your investment worthwhile, and having some foresight kind of the maintenance and the things that go into being a homeowner. We do talk about, like Ruth and I, you'll see on, social media and stuff, and people go back and forth on, it's just the same as renting. And we talk about equity and we talk about investment and we talk about, for the most part, having an idea of what your rent is going to be or your mortgage is going to be versus your rent. You have no idea if it's going to double or if it's going to go up $100 or stay the same. At least with a mortgage, when it's a fixed rate, you have, of course, taxes and insurance can always go up, but, you have an idea of where you're going, but what you're paying. But then there are, yes, the things that you as a renter would, as a renter wouldn't have to do, but this is all still things that get wrapped up in a rental too,
Right.
So, it sucks to think about having to spend $20,000 on a roof or, $6,000 or $7,000 on a furnace.
Or even spend your weekends doing work on your house when you used to just be able to spend them, having fun. But
Right.
We need to make sure that we set the expectations, especially with someone who's coming from renting who may not be used to even thinking about it. And then really, especially if they are kind of a first generation homeowner in their family, they don't even, they didn't grow up watching their dad putter around the house doing these things in the fall. I remember hearing a story about a family who bought their first home, and then as winter set in, they called the previous owner to ask if he could come put the storm windows in the days or the older house that had storm windows. Because they had rented, not only had they rented, but everybody in their family always rented. And they never knew that if you own a home, you got to do all these things. So that's a kind of an extreme example, but I've seen that happen. I've seen people who grew up either, my mom grew up in New York where everybody rents and you call the super to fix things. That's just how it goes. So they don't have an expectation. And we who grew up in homeowner communities need to figure out whether that's an issue or not. So I think if we're constantly setting that expectation and helping people understand, and even going through at the inspection, most inspectors will say, this is something that you're going to have to change the furnace filter every month. This is something to know about the maintenance on this item, right?
Yeah. And, I think that we, you're talking about growing up and watching, family members putting around the house and getting things done. There's still things that I don't ever recall seeing my dad do. I don't believe I ever saw him, draining the water heater. but then again, he could have, because the drain was like 4 inches away from the water heater. So maybe it was just, not a big deal because it was right there. Or everybody has their own, and again, now when you have this generation who's been who have been preoccupied by other things, their eyes aren't always, looking around if it doesn't affect them. And as they get to become homeowners and things like that, those type of maintenance items, they've never, again, like you said, there's a disconnect in what you know and what you think you should know, kind of, I don't want to call it common sense because that's not true, but it's like house smarts or something like that. It's like street smarts, house smarts.
Right. And I think it's a great role for us to play as realtors. We're always looking for helping people understand our value and finding new ways to serve and help our clients. And this is a great way. Also, if you have trusted vendors that you can share with your clients, that's a great opportunity to touch them, to give them something, to not be always saying, do you know somebody who wants to buy or sell a house? Instead, you can say, are you getting your gutters cleaned this year? Because I've got a great guy I just met. He does a great job for a good price. Would you like his number? And that allows you to be the person facilitating, good things happening for them in their house.
Absolutely. So what are other maintenance things? So we live in a cold area. And so this makes, this is the time that people start to put on their furnaces or thinking about, maintenance and switching over. I'd be interested if there's people from other places. Do you have fall maintenance? What are some of the fall maintenance things? Because we're obviously changing seasons.
Right, we changed and also there's places where people don't typically have basements. I mean, we have some houses that don't have basements, but most of them do. There's some places I've heard of from other realtors where they just don't exist. So what's different about that? Like how do you need to maintain a house in a warm climate or a mountainous climate or even a colder climate, which is some days in January, hard to believe there could be colder than Chicagoland. What are the things that you encounter and need to either prepare your new buyer clients for or remind your current homeowners of, or maybe even things that you learned on a home inspection that surprised you and now you can share that going forward? What are they? Drop them in the comments. We will read them and avidly pay attention and talk about them in another one.
Yes, and learn something new and maybe include tips for other areas because we don't know who exactly, we have people who watch from all over the place sometimes. So it's good to know. All right.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.